All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again for another one. And this one's quite important, but in China, the hospitals, people are running out of money. They're closing hospitals. And that's a big problem because we all know in China has a large population and people are running out of money and closing up hospitals. People are short staffed. They're capping their salaries, cutting their salaries too. So let's see what's going on here. This affects me deeply because I work in healthcare and I want to know what the hell is going on. Let's go.
And its fiscal situation is tense. Hospitals across the country are seeing a wave of salary cuts. Doctors' incomes at many 3A hospitals in Guangzhou and Shenzhen have dropped by 30% or even slashed. The same is true for hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai. Today, we're going to talk about hospital salary cuts. Although it's a 12-hour shift, I work at least 15 hours daily. I was in my 20s and had many dealings with the crematorium during the epidemic. We did not let the hospital down, and you can't treat us like this. Do you know? We are bitterly disappointed. We have never thought of retreating. We are not afraid of the epidemic. Do you know I am wearing an oxygen tube and breathing while working? We want to do the work of nurses and take the money that nurses should earn. I don't think it's excessive. The medical
Wow, that's dedication right there. She didn't let the hospital down at all. A lot of hospital employees, they're very dedicated to what they do and where they do it at. So, and how do you cut the doctor's salary? That doesn't even happen where I'm at. Or at least not yet. Not saying it can't happen, but if the fuckery continues, at some point it will, right?
staff said that the hospital advanced part of the money reimbursed by the patient's medical insurance, and the Medical Insurance Bureau was supposed to transfer the funds to the hospital later. However, the Chinese government's financial constraints meant that the Medical Insurance Bureau had no money to settle the settlement with the hospital, so the hospital slowly suffered losses. There is no money to pay wages. Some hospitals even require medical staff to return the anti-epidemic subsidies paid during the epidemic. Hospitals in China are divided into 3 levels based on size and quality rankings: tertiary, secondary, and primary. The same level is divided into 2 categories, A and B. The tertiary
They connected this shit like it's some kind of game. This is people's lives, man. What's wrong with people?
are the best. Usually, the salary of medical staff in public hospitals consists of 3 parts: basic salary, performance bonus, and allowances. The salary cuts for doctors in Shenzhen are mostly performance-based. A surgeon at a 3A hospital in Shenzhen said that the salary cut started in August 2024, and the performance-based salary was reduced by 50%. The doctor said that doctors' income in hospitals mainly depends on performance-based wages, and the basic salary is deducted every month after deducting the 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. A doctor from another 3A hospital in Shenzhen also said that the hospital had notified all departments to reduce performance-based wages starting in 2025.
Performance-based wages, like it's some kind of game or something. I'm like, so there's no one flat income, basically. So depending on how good of a surgeon you are, you'll make more money or you might make less money. You do a half-ass job, you're going to get half-ass paid. That's basically what they're saying.
But did not specify the extent of the salary reduction.
深圳又带头降薪了，3年前。
Shenzhen has taken the lead in reducing salaries again. 3 years ago, Shenzhen took the lead in reducing teacher salaries, and this time it has diminished doctors' salaries, ranging from 30 to 50%. Not only performance-based salaries, but also the basic wage has been reduced. The higher the salary, the more the reduction. Some doctors have seen their annual salary reduced by 27,000. This wave of salary reductions is not limited to Shenzhen, but has also been seen in other parts of the country.
全国其他地方也开启了降薪。
A doctor in Shenzhen posted, "The wave of salary cuts will hit Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen first."
All the large cities, that's crazy. These are the cities that's bringing in all the money. Yeah, that's a big problem. If the big cities are having cuts in these, ooh-wee. That's why if you go to school to be a doctor, it's best just to open up your own practice. Hire your own nurses.
This morning, the group went crazy. People were complaining about the shrinking income. How can I pay off the monthly mortgage of $2,700 with an income of $2,200? I have no choice but to pack up and return to my hometown. She sighed. This winter is frigid and my heart is cold. Let's start the self-rescue mode and prepare for a side job. Blogger Xiaolong said in the video that a nurse friend told her that their hospital had taken a pay cut.
他说我们现在降薪了，其实听到降薪。
I asked her, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "We have a pay cut." I was not surprised to hear the word pay cut. I think a pay cut is just a $50 to $60 cut. To be honest, a $50 to $60 cut would not significantly impact my life. I didn't take it seriously at the time, but she said I now get $370 a month. When I heard $370, I was shocked. Even in a fifth-tier city, $370 is not enough. Because the rent is $140 a month, you still have $230 left, which is really not enough. Girls, don't dare to buy expensive clothes or skincare products outside. $230 a month is not enough. You also have to add your transportation, food, and living expenses.
So basically, these wages are only enough to support oneself, not a family with these wages. And you go through all this stress and everything, saving everybody else's lives, and you put yourself at risk at catching whatever they have if it's contagious. But yeah, that's crazy to me. So these first responders are basically getting paid what pretty much a medical assistant will work, or even less.
It's really not enough.
吃饭，你的生活成本真的是啥也不够。
Xiaolong asked his friend, "Since the salary cut is so drastic, is anyone making trouble in your hospital?" This friend said there was a lot of fuss. Initially, they heard about a pay cut and everyone made a big fuss. Then their hospital started to adopt the last in first out system. They held a 3-level exam where doctors were tested first. The last few doctors were directly dismissed and the rest didn't dare to say a word. Xiaolong thought that maybe the hospital she was in was just an isolated phenomenon and big hospitals might be better.
然后我又问了我其他朋友，
Then I asked other friends who work in the public tertiary hospitals and they told me directly, "Our monthly salary is now cut in half." What does that mean? Before you might get $600 a month, but now you can only get $300 a month, and
Damn, that's a large cut. So yeah, that means you ain't buying no new car. That's what it sounds like. So sounds like some of these people, they better start an OnlyFans. They better basically they need to get a man. Yeah.
there was no year-end bonus at the end of the year. I was shocked at the time. Suddenly, I feel that the very stable salary in the eyes of the older generation may not be stable anymore. I could risk being fired or laid off at any time. It was too scary. It's challenging to make money now.
真的太难挣了，我只能说。
A doctor in Guangdong posted his income in 2023 online, which totaled 63,000. His total income in 2024 was 36,000, which is 27,000 less than the details. Guangzhou has also cut salaries. Guangzhou Hospital has also cut salaries. Which hospital? The hospital's director has said that they have issued a notice that salaries will be cut overall, but they don't know by how much. Didn't Shenzhen cut wages 2 days ago? A 30% reduction.
Whoa.
If Guangzhou really starts to cut wages, it will only be more, not less, or at least the same. Do people still say that medical jobs are stable or have a high social status?
I do. Here in the West, it does. Especially here in California. Because most people that work in healthcare are union. Now, see, the doctors are protected by the state, so it's against the law for physicians to be in a union. Understand? Cool.
No, hospitals are caught up in unemployment, bankruptcy, wage demands, etc. You see, many news reports are coming out now, and they're all putting up banners, right? Many two-way public hospitals in many places cannot pay salaries and are in arrears.
And see, I was in this predicament around the summer of last year. Not in 2024, but the year before that. We had all the large union strikes. For those that follow what goes on in America, in California, we had all those large unions, which I'm a part of. We were outside on the corner striking and everything for a few days. And we finally got the decent contract. I mean, there's still some effery involved, but it's a lot better than what they were trying to do and give us. Otherwise, basically what I'm saying is they were going to do us the same way they're doing these people. The only difference is these people weren't able to fight their way through it. I don't know if they're union or not, but continue.
Some hospitals have begun to file for bankruptcy and can no longer operate. Even public medical institutions have started to close down. This has caused panic among the public, and many doctors are thinking about their future. Some are considering resigning from public medical institutions to open their clinics or working in private medical institutions.
Like I said, see, they got the idea. Run their own practices and hire who they want to hire. That way they could be more in control. Because see, understand, no matter what you go to school for, you have that useless ass degree, right? You think you're going to just glide your way through life with that college degree, but in reality, you're still under somebody else taking command, and pretty much anything can happen to you. You don't own what you do. You're not the CEO. You can't walk into the building and do what you want to do because you work for somebody else. But you thought you were safe with your education, and it's not the case. Look at you now.
This blogger advises doctor friends who want to leave their jobs not to rush out, otherwise the risk will be too significant. It's hazardous for you to come out rashly. It's not easy for private medical institutions to survive now. The competition is very fierce. Private institutions are more realistic. I provide you with a place to see a doctor, but you will have no income if you have no patients. Can you bear it? No, you can't.
On top of that, you're probably not going to buy the building that you operate your clinic or whatever practice you're going to run out of. Most likely you're going to lease the building, and that lease is going to be expensive because you have the electricity, all the medical equipment and everything. So just keep in mind, you better be in the top 10 or top 5 of clinics in the city, because if you're just some rinky-dink place, just a random clinic, then it's not going to be that good. So that could collapse at any second, because you better have like a high rapport, a high clientele of patients, like this guy is saying. Otherwise, it's just a waste of money and a waste of time for you. Versus an overcrowded, organized hospital organization. Like a chain of hospitals, like let's say McDonald's, a well-known organization that operates like a McDonald's chain. They just have so many people coming to their places and clinics that pretty much they have it going on.
In the past, the hospital was your most significant support. In the future, your fans and patients will be your biggest support and guarantee your confidence in speaking. Our medical structure, especially the doctors and public medical institutions, will not be worth much if they leave the platform of your public medical institution. There are only a few types. One is the top technical expert. The second one knows management and operations and has abundant resources. Think about it, everyone, you really shouldn't think that you are valuable. You are really worthless after you come out. You must understand that this is the case when the competition becomes fiercer. The more vicious the competition, the more you need to have real things. Hospitals in Guangzhou and Shenzhen have cut salaries, and Shanghai has also cut salaries. Consider a blog post published on December 7th titled, "Discussion on the topic of salary reduction among medical staff in Shanghai." Many medical workers responded that their units have reduced their salaries by up to 80% and at least 15%. Some hospitals have even started changing their 2-day weekend to a single day, and workers must work on Saturdays. One of the doctors in Huangpu District, Shanghai, said he works in a secondary hospital. His salary has been reduced by 1/3 and will continue to decline next year. Recently, everyone has been talking about salary cuts and wage arrears. I have also seen many hospital colleagues saying their performance-based income has dropped significantly. It used to be in the tens of thousands of RMB, but now they can only get a few thousand, and they may not even get performance-based income for several months. So they are very distressed because the gap is too big.
So basically, if you're in China and you work in healthcare, you better have a secondary place to work at, maybe a secondary hospital on call. And see, even here in America, most nurses, they have work-life balance and they work somewhere else on call. Like they'll be part-time at a primary hospital, and then there's another hospital they work at on call. So they're not full-time. So they're not just giving their life away to some organization. So that makes a lot of sense. basically just have abundance.
A doctor from a Shanghai 2B hospital told the reporter that his hospital doesn't even pay a penny during the Chinese New Year or other holidays.
Whoa.
Many of my friends in grade 3 hospitals have had their salaries cut by 30%. The overall environment is bad now, and everyone's salaries have been reduced. How can hospitals not reduce their salaries? Many hospitals have even closed down. This blogger and his wife are both doctors and took a pay cut. My current income level is not enough to pay off the mortgage, so I need to get money from my wife to pay off the mortgage. My wife's unit has implemented a 30% salary cut since the beginning of 2024, while our unit is relatively better off with a 20% salary cut. An attending physician said that his monthly performance salary was originally about $2,000. Still, he can only get about $1,000, and his total income has dropped to about $1,400, with his overall income almost halved. As early as September 2023, Beijing Tonggreen Hospital was also exposed to salary cuts, with performance pay reduced by 50%, night shift emergency room fees reduced from $18 to $9 per time, and regular night shift fees dropped from $12 to $6. This blogger believes that blind expansion is a reason for the hospital's losses, which leads to salary cuts. Let me tell you the truth, salary cuts in hospitals are just the beginning, and layoffs will be the highlight of 2025. Many medical staff will be laid off next year, and many hospitals have recently begun to draw up lists. Everyone is at risk. Since the epidemic, almost all hospitals have entered a state of crazy expansion in 2021, especially general hospitals and traditional Chinese medicine hospitals, with project approvals 1.5 times higher than in previous years. Buildings are rising rapidly, but most hospitals have not considered the operating costs behind them. Official data says that 62.5% of hospitals will be losing money in 2024.
That's almost all of them. And see, even if they do open new hospitals, they're basically saying they might end up closing down because it might be too expensive. Now, see, back here in the West, when hospitals close down, they usually either get bought out by a larger organization, or maybe they want to do something else with the building, or maybe they just need to close the hospital down because it didn't pass inspections. Because in the West, hospitals have all these different agencies that come and do walkthroughs. They have like a bunch of clearances they have to clear in order for the hospital to continue running. And let's say a hospital is too dirty and they're not following the codes and everything and not up to code, they're going to end up shutting the hospital down.
And it'll be far more than this number in 2025. This blind expansion has slowly begun to appear, and salary cuts also started here. This blogger worries that fewer people will study medicine if this continues. Recently, there's been a lot of negative news about hospitals, such as salary cuts, source checks, and even closures, which has made people panic and confused medical students. The doctor-patient relationship is already tense, but now with the addition of sunshine performance and 3 apparent changes, studying medicine has cost so much for more than 10 years. Still, the rewards are getting less and less. Who will want to study medicine in the future?
Wow. And see, back home here in the West, that's an issue too. There's a high, how do you even say that? There was a large portion of people going into the medical field to become RNs, but now it's on the decline ever since COVID. Now, see, during COVID, there was a shortage of nurses, but see, now becoming an RN isn't as popular as it used to be. Let alone, it's not really a respectable career, to be honest with you, versus being an actual doctor. But that's just how that goes too. But see, it sounds like back over here in China, the healthcare workers are being treated like the tech bros. Like they're just basically treated like shit, losing pay. And on top of that, it sounds like these healthcare people are not unionized either. So that's why they're losing pay and everything. Nobody's not backing them up. Versus over here in the West, especially here in California and the liberal areas, most healthcare workers are union. Not unless they work for a mom and pop or a nursing home or something. But other than that, yeah, there's a large number here in the West where not everybody's unionized, but let's say if we take it back to the Midwest, to the southern areas where healthcare workers get paid the lowest in the country. So they rather come to the West Coast or the East Coast to where they'll get paid the most. I believe California pays the most for healthcare workers in the world. So maybe some of these Chinese people need to come to California to make some money.
The population of this enormous country, with a population of more than 1 billion, is getting more and more aging, but there are fewer and fewer doctors and nurses.
医生护士却越来越少。
The blogger Dr. Chi from the Department of Urology, who has millions of fans, posted on Weibo that anti-epidemic subsidies can still be recovered. He wrote in a post, "I received a notice from the hospital's finance department that the 15.36% of the 2023 national COVID anti-epidemic subsidy that has been issued will be directly deducted from this month's bonus, and then the hospital will transfer the money to the government's designated account. During the epidemic, I was feverish to over 39 degrees Celsius and still stayed at my post. In return, I was treated like this. It's simply like killing the donkey when it leaves the millstone."
Whoa.
Chen Xia, a doctor at Shanghai Qingpu Hospital, told overseas media, "Although the epidemic is over, how many medical staff got up early and worked late to do nucleic acid tests, wearing airtight protective clothing, and fainted from the heat? How many medical staff who served COVID-19 patients at close range in the Fangkong Hospital were infected? How many died of COVID-19? The epidemic is over, and no one mentions it now, as if it never happened. These medical staff are paid for their hard work during the epidemic." Chen Xia said, "If this money is deducted, who will dare to move forward if similar things happen in the future?" Recently, the number of patients in various hospitals has increased significantly, and many of them are suffering from respiratory failure caused by pneumonia. The mortality rate of this wave is much higher than that of the new coronavirus. Now, the hospitals are not saying anything, and they are not providing medical protective clothing. The National Health Commission is also not saying anything. How can we now mobilize employees' enthusiasm by cutting salaries and deducting performance wages? Public opinion generally believes that this shows that China's finances are really in trouble.
Wow, you guys. So that's not sounding good at all. And usually things get better. Usually it gets worse before it gets better, right? So I don't know. We'll just have to see how that plays out. How is healthcare on the decline? First responders, that's very important. So next, you don't hear any stories. See, I'm glad that I came across this because, see, it's always the tech people that are always the ones being victimized, right? But then they never go into healthcare that much. So being that I'm in healthcare, I'm glad that I came across this type of video because it relates more to me, because I can't relate to a tech bro. I like tech, but I don't work in tech. So I'm not part of that, but I do enjoy the loves of technology. Anyway, this is Kai DeVale. I hope you learned something. This is very interesting. I learned something, and I'll catch you on the next video.
Thank you.